Welcome to the Body and Soul Shop. Today we've got a really interesting turn of events. Since the last video last week of the 34 Ford Chop Top, going through the comments, Terry Fitzpatrick, who's an old friend of mine, used to hang out in my shop in Ohio, called me and said, "Hey Paul, your first hot rod is up here locally now." It showed up after 31 years, and so we couldn't resist showing it to you. So this here is my very first hot rod that I ever built. It's a 1929 Willys Whippet. So this is when we were unloading it off the trailer that day that I bought it. Somebody had started to put a Mustang 2 front end under it. Didn't do it right at all. It was too far forward. So when you've seen it in the fenders, it just didn't look good at all. Took all that back out and started all over. Here's a picture of it as I was getting ready to tear it down, or started tearing it down in the shop. This is after I cut the Mustang 2 front end loose and repositioned it properly, put it back where it was supposed to be, and started welding it in. It was the very first Mustang 2 front end that I'd ever put in anything, but I did a lot of measuring and checking on things, and I'll tell you another interesting story about it right here in a second. This is it as I got it in there, and it's in primer right there. I didn't like the way the Mustang 2 front end looked with the rack and pinion on the front of the cross member. It looked awful. It was just gaudy, and I said something to my brother Terry. I said, "Hey, I want to put the rack behind it." He said, "Well, you realize if you do that, it's going to steer backwards." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." You know, we're young back then, right? So he says, "You need to find some kind of a car that's got a rack and pinion behind." And so I went to the salvage yard and dug around. I found Chevy Citation had a rear steer on it. So that's what's on this Mustang 2 front ends, a Chevy Citation rear steer, and it worked out perfect. It just changed the whole look of the car. You didn't have that gaudy rack sticking out front. So here's a picture of it when it was painted. The chassis was painted and stuff. Oh, by the way, it had a tune port in it originally, but I wound up taking it off because it was in the early days and we had a terrible time getting it to lean out. So it had carburetor on it after that. Okay, so it was built in Ohio, and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee area. This is September of 1992 when we brought it to Nashville. This was unloading it in the yard off of the U-Haul trailer. No enclosed trailers back then. I had black hair at one time, or dark brown hair. This is after we unloaded it at my house. So Dan went to Ohio this week and shot video on the car at the lot, and there has been a few changes, minor changes, nothing major, but some little changes done that doesn't represent my work, so we're not going to show those pictures. We'll show a few shots of it, but what I want you to know is overall the car still is intact, mostly like it was when I finished it, and is in really good shape. It's a good solid car. It come out of Kansas, and actually that's back in the day when everybody was pro streeting everything. The floor was so immaculate in the trunk area of this thing, I couldn't bring myself to cut it up, so it would have been a pro street otherwise. So the video that you see here is the same place at Louisville at the Street Rod Nationals, and that's the day that I sold the car. Here's a good shot of it down by the lake. It was just a relaxing afternoon in Hendersonville, Tennessee. So in 1992, I drove it to Knoxville to the Street Rod Nationals, and then like I said, in 93, I drove to Louisville to the Street Rod Nationals, and that's where I sold it. So 31 years later, the car's still intact and it's still good and solid. Paint looks amazing. The white lettering on the tires is a little bit yellowed after all these years, but it's pretty cool. So very nostalgic. That was the very first hot rod I ever built. Built it from the ground up. It was just great to see it again after all these years. I'm sure you guys have had the same kind of stories. So anyway, I just wanted to share this one with you. Here's a little film of Dan and Bill riding around Wellington, Ohio, and it's for sale.
It looks like she drives pretty good, huh?
Yeah, just like going to the prom. She runs good, smooth going down the road. Dan was a little scared, but other than that, we were fine. Hello, this is Bill Sowers from Sauer Motorsports, the House of Speed, Wellington, Ohio. This is a 1929 Willys Whippet. Paul built it probably 30 years ago. It's for sale. You can drive it anywhere. We just took Dan for a little ride in it. It's smooth. We want $35,000 for it. But the paint is unbelievable how it's held up all them years. We didn't get on it or nothing. but it drives very nice driver. It's got air, power windows, so it's a nice street rod. I appreciate the Body and Soul Shop for stopping up and giving us an opportunity to show off his first ride.
Hey, I want to say thank you to Bill too for allowing us to come up and video it. That's pretty cool. Hey, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe and share with your friends and all that. And we just pray God blesses you real big. Until we see you again next week. Thank you so much.